Hey, good morning. Mike Pillow here at Century 21 HomeStar and the 21 Mike team. Coming to you from Apple Valley. And today's topic, buyers and buyers offers. Have you been looking at homes? Have you been submitting offers? And when there's multiple offers, your offer's not getting chosen? Well, today that's what we're going to go over is what what makes your offer strong and makes it appealing to the seller. So let me share my screen and we'll get going right now. Okay. All right. Your dream home just hit the market. Would your offer beat the competition if it were on the table today? In today's market, we're seeing more homes not selling. There's more competition and buyers are being more particular. But there are these cases where homes are going into multiple offers. So is your offer strong enough where it's going to be chosen? Okay, my name is Mike Pillow. I'm a realtor Century 21 HomeStar and a 21 Mike team. You can contact me by phone or text at 740-504-6251, or you can email me at pillowdreamhomes@gmail.com. And here's an action figure that I created of me and my little fishing buddy Bentley, who also serves as our 21 Mike team CEO. So that's Bentley. Anyway, the the 2025 market reality. Here are some current market facts. Inventory is up slightly, but good homes still move fast. More importantly, good homes that are priced correctly are moving fast. Because I've been shown a lot of really good homes that are not priced correctly. They're still priced as though we are living in 2022 and 2023, and they've been sitting on the market for months. But that's another webinar that we did a couple weeks ago. Anyway, interest rates are starting to stabilize, which changes buyer leverage. You know, here when it was up over 7%, you know, nothing was selling. Now it's starting to stabilize a little bit. So we're starting to see more offers hit the table here. Sellers are more open to negotiations, but they certainly they want certainty. Um, they want when they accept an offer that it's not going to fail or it's not going to fall apart because of financing or because the buyer has all these contingencies that it can't pass inspections and such. You know, so it's not always the dollar amount; it's the certainty behind the offer. Some of the best strategies get fully underwritten, not just pre-approved. You want to go into these offers strong. You want that pre-approval letter. You want to be working with your lender and making sure that you are going to get financed for this purchase that submitting an offer for. Partner with an agent who communicates directly with listing agents to gauge seller motivation. A lot of times we can learn a lot about the seller, just by talking to the listing agent and finding out what's important to that seller and understand your competition. Ask how many offers are already in. Now, the listing agent doesn't have to reveal how many offers, but oftentimes they will. Know what you're up against. The anatomy of a strong offer. What sellers really look for. And again, I want to go back to the point. It's not just the price. So let's look at it from the seller's point of view. The price, it needs to be fair. It needs to be data backed and not emotional. So, if you're asking below asking, if that's your offer, it just can't be, well, I'm offering below market value or the asking price because that's just where I want to be. You don't have to support that with, well, I'm asking below asking because, the house needs a new roof, it needs new paint, needs this, needs that. You know, the fact that you feel it's not priced correctly, that's not going to be a strong argument. Earnest money. And earnest money shows commitment. 1 to 3%, that we put down for earnest money is common and a strong offer. If you're looking to buy a home for, $500,000 and you want to put $100 earnest money, you're not going to be real strong there. Financing terms, conventional and cash offers, they carry the most weight. I mean, cash is king, but as far as your different loans, conventional is always going to be stronger. It's going to be stronger than FHA or VA because the seller doesn't need to jump through so many hoops. Contingencies, shorter and cleaner equals stronger offers. If you're writing an offer with all these different contingencies, that's going to really turn away a lot of sellers. You know, if you have a home you have to sell before you purchase, I mean, obviously you have to include that in there, but you have to go into this offer knowing that you're going to be weaker than somebody that's ready to move in right now and they've been pre-approved or they're paying cash and they don't have to sell an existing home. Because what if your house doesn't sell? Or it could take months for the house to sell. So now you're holding up the next transaction. And flexibility. You want to be able to meet the seller's timeline. Most sellers, they want to sell quickly because, they have an offer in on another home or they're getting ready to make a life-changing move. So, if you're submitting an offer that's dragging your feet, that might turn a seller away. So, best practices here. Have your lender call the listing agent after submitting your offer to vouch for your strength. Avoid lowballing in competitive scenarios. It kills credibility. Oftentimes I have my buyers, they want to put in a lowball offer. A lot of times this is just going to insult the seller. So even if you come back with asking maybe even more, that seller may just say, you know what, I don't want to deal with you. If you're going to lowball me, then what other issues am I going to have during the process? So you could kill your chances by lowballing. And ask your agent, ask me to read the listing notes carefully for clues about the seller's priorities. Is A lot of times agents, they don't share that information, not intentionally. It's not thought of. There's so many questions being asked about the property that an agent may forget to go into some of the agent remarks. Just ask your agent to read these remarks. That way you're getting the information. All right. So next we have what buyers can ask the seller to pay. When we're submitting an offer, and this has happened many times here recently, where we submit an offer on a home that's been on the market for a while, because that seems to be the scenario in today's market. Homes aren't selling quick. So the buyer thinks they have an upper hand, that the seller is actually feeling desperate and they want to make the buyer or a seller pay for everything. Well, in some cases that works, some cases it really hurts you. So the buyer's agent commission. I mean, it's very common to ask the seller to pay for the buyer's agent commission. And it can be structured into the sale price as well. So, um, if there's enough leeway, if the house is listed at or below appraisal value, a lot of times you can write in the buyer's agent's commission, so it's absorbed into the mortgage. Yeah, but yeah, oftentimes you just ask them to pay the buyer's agent. That that usually isn't that big of a obstacle because all commissions are negotiable. We could go back and forth on the commissions. Closing costs 2 to 3% is reasonable if the home's been listed over 30 days. When you start getting over 3%, that starts to sour your your offer. It's asking too much. Sometimes you might ask a little more of a closing costs percentage when it's been on the market for an extended period of time, but good rule of thumb, 2 to 3%. Transfer and title fees. They're often negotiable. Ask your agent which side typically covers in your area. Yeah, I know here in Apple Valley, there's a $275 deed transfer fee. Uh, it's kind of balanced. I will say sometimes the buyer, sometimes the seller pays for it. Oftentimes, though, uh, the buyer will ask for the seller to pay that if the buyer's agent understands Apple Valley. We have a lot of agents that are working outside of the Apple Valley and they don't even know about the $275 transfer fee. And it comes as a surprise to the buyer on the day of closing when an additional $275 is being debited from their side of the closing. Again, that's why it's best to work with an agent that's familiar and knows the market, an area expert. If you're looking to buy or sell in Apple Valley, it's better to go with an agent like myself who knows the area. I've been here for 30 years. I grew up in this area. When you start getting out of town agents, a lot of times there's few little things that they don't know about that could cost you money in the end. All right, home warranty or credit repair. It's a great way to offset future costs without reducing the price. Um, you know, you, and again, these all these are negotiable. The seller could counteract, say, well, you know, we'll agree to these terms, but not these terms. And so, best practices, don't ask for everything at once. Prioritize what matters. If you're going to ask for everything, you're weakening your offer because even though you're offering the asking price, that looks good in line one that the seller's going to receive the asking price, but then as the contract goes through and you've checked off everything that they could possibly pay for, and the next thing you know, you're running up a bill close to 20 grand that's coming off the seller's net. So it does weaken your offer. Bundle the concessions smartly. Seller to contribute 5,000 towards buyer costs rather than line by line request. And that's a good strategy to use. Make the seller feel like they're helping close a fair deal, not footing the bill. and oftentimes that's where we lose our offers, that we submit, is when we make the seller feel like they're paying for everything. Remember, this has to be fair for both sides. When not to ask the seller to pay? Well, when you're competing in multiple offers, it's not wise to ask the seller to pay a bunch of fees, because other offers aren't going to have all those fees. The buyers want to take care of them themselves. When the home just hit the market, I mean, think about it. The home just hit the market. The seller they haven't felt any fear of failure. They have no fear of the house not selling because it's brand new on the market. So they're not going to pay all these concessions because it hasn't even matured on the market yet. So sometimes it's best to wait. You might lose the house. If it's the house that you really want, then you need to submit your offer intelligently with a strategy where it's going to get accepted. And when sellers already made price reductions, this is something that's going on a lot today because we're seeing homes that are overpriced, and we recognize it. They are overpriced. They're not being priced at the market value. But that's a difficult thing to explain to a seller. They think their house is worth X, so they're pricing it at X when it's really valued at Y. So when they reduce that price down to Y, which is now closer to a fair market value, and you come in and you ask for even more of a reduction, they feel like they're giving their house away. So don't expect a seller to be real receptive if they just lowered the price and you go in and you offer even less and then ask them to pay for more. You're most likely not going to win that battle. So some of the best practices, keep the first offer clean, negotiate extras only if countered, read between the lines, get that motivation, try to figure out what the motivation is, and submit the offers based on the motivation of the seller. Sellers usually hint through pricing or listing remarks what their motivation is. So just pay attention to the details. All right, smart negotiation tactics. Winning without overpaying. Your agent needs to be respectful. You need to be respectful. You can't send your agent in with insulting negotiating tactics and expect to come out. Negotiation is not a combat. It's not a war. It's persuasion. You're trying to get the best terms. They're trying to get the best terms. So both parties are coming in trying to meet in the middle where it's a fair deal for both. You can't always have it your way. I know that's not fair. It really isn't fair that you can't have everything your way, but there are other people involved, and you have to be on the same page here with the sellers. You need to present yourself and offer flexibility on possession or move out dates because, again, this is a life change for them as well. So, again, fairness for everyone. Um, Use escalation clauses cautiously and clearly. I'm not a real fan of escalation clauses, but you just have to be careful when you do these. Show strength through preparation and responsiveness. Don't try to strong arm somebody. Okay, so some best practices to follow: submit offers quickly. De- delay delay will equal lost opportunity. And so If you make a decision, this is the house you want. You want to get this offer in. Don't ponder on it. Have inspection and appraisal partners lined up in advance. You need, and don't waive an inspection, and don't ask the seller to pay for the inspection. Pay for the inspection yourself. That's just smart. You want to you want to control who's inspecting that home, not have the seller, because that's what's going to protect you. Um, you want your guy inspecting, and always confirm details in writing. Verbal promises mean nothing in real estate. Get it in writing. All right. How to stand out in multiple offer situations. A clean offer. Fewer contingencies, faster timelines. You know, I want to buy your property at this price and let's close as quickly as possible if that's the motivation. Flexible dates. Match their ideal closing windows. I mean, if closing is not a big deal to you, then match theirs. Local lenders. Sellers and agents trust familiar names. I mean, that's kind of a given. Follow up a quick text or a call from your agent showing enthusiasm and professionalism. If your agent isn't responding to the seller's agent promptly, then you've hired the wrong agent. You know, I have to be available for my buyers. When we submit an offer, even if I have something in my schedule, I let the seller's agent know, you know, well in advance. Hey, I may not be available from say 1 to 2 because I have another appointment. Feel free to call or text me. It's about communication. If your agent is not good at communicating, then you had the wrong agent. You're going to lose. So some of the best practices to follow here is sellers often choose trust over top dollar. When these offers are close, that agent or that seller, they're going to gravitate to the solid offers that they can trust, that there's no loopholes, there's less contingencies. And a reputation for reliability wins repeatedly. This is where your agent's name carries weight. So, you want to hire an agent that is reputable in the area. Okay, so next here we have mistakes that kill a deal. These are some things that you do not want to do. Submitting without full pre-approval, lowballing just to see if they'll take it. Lowballing is not a good strategy. It's a hope. Hope is not a strategy. Ignoring local market data. Your agent should have already done some homework on the local market, or you've hired the right agent who already knows the local market and can explain to you the data. You can't ignore it. The data is the data. A lot of folks, they don't realize that real estate agents don't set the prices. The market sets the price. So if you're ignoring the market data, you're not understanding the market. Failing to respond quickly to counter offers. Again, can't can't stress enough how important it is for your agent to be able to respond. So you need an agent who's going to respond quickly, communicate to you quickly, and you have to come up with a decision quickly. You can't ask that seller, well, let me think about it for a day or so. The other offers aren't thinking about it. They're saying, okay, here's my counter. So you need to empower your agent where they can respond quickly and professionally. Some best practices to follow. Always verify your numbers with your lender before submitting that offer. Don't try to win negotiations. Focus on achieving fair, sustainable deals. This has to be fair for both sides of both the buyer and the seller. Again, it can't always go your way. If you have to have a deal go your way, you're going to be spending a long time looking for homes and upsetting a lot of people along your wake. And remember, a great home at a fair price beats a bargain that you don't love. Wouldn't you rather make a fair offer and pay a few fees, pay the money to get into the home that you love, that is your forever home, or is the perfect next step home, rather than search for that bargain home that you really don't like just because you're getting it at cost? Need to weigh those out. All right, so are you ready to make your move? Here's my QR code. Please scan it. It's an opportunity to meet me, meet Mike. It takes you straight to my YouTube channel, Lake House Fishing and Real Estate, where this is my introduction video. You can learn a little more about me. You can also contact me by phone or text at 740-504-6251, or shoot me an email at pillowdreamhomes@gmail.com. So I want to thank everybody for being here today. And as we always end our shows, you're not the only one looking for a home. Please go to your local dog shelter and adopt your next new best friend. Until next week, you have a good day. And remember, when you're submitting an offer, do it strategically and intelligently, and listen to your agent. They know the game.